Welcome back to the Build a Trader YouTube channel. In this video, we'll be covering the economic news for the week, as well as covering some technical analysis on the trading pairs that we cover. As usual, this week we'll be looking at the NASDAQ 100, S&P 500, US 30, gold, and silver, and we'll also look a little bit at Bitcoin. Hope you all had an absolute fantastic trading week. This past week, we called 3 signals in the Telegram channel, and we won one of them. We won one trade, one hit stop loss, and one hit our trailing stop loss. So ultimately wasn't our best week, and this has been quite a few months since we had a week with more losing trades than winning trades. But overall, looking forward to this upcoming week, this upcoming new trading month, and the tons of opportunities that are going to be present here for us to take advantage of. I am going to a tulip field later today at a farm in Buckley, Washington. It's about an hour away, so this analysis, we'll go ahead and try and wrap this up pretty quickly here and be as accurate and detailed as possible. Without further ado, let's go ahead and cover the economic news for the week. Alrighty, this week we have a ton of economic news. On Thursday, we have a new trading month. Thursday is May 1st. So let's see what we have coming up here. Monday, all day long, we have Canadian federal elections. So high impact news for the Canadian dollar. Expect a lot of volatility in the markets, especially during New York session. Tuesday at London Open, we have medium impact news for the euro, which is the Spanish flash CPI. Shorted by that, we have medium and high impact news for the US dollar, 6 a.m. pre-New York Open. We have S&P/CS Composite 20 HPI. 7 a.m. we have high impact news, which is JOLTS job openings, and then Conference Board consumer confidence data. Later that evening, during Asia session, we have high impact news for the Australian dollar, which is CPI, Consumer Price Index, as well as manufacturing PMI, which is Purchasing Managers Index. All day long, we have high impact news for the euro, which is German Preliminary Consumer Price Index data. Wednesday, pre-New York Open, we have ADP non-farm employment change, high impact news for the US dollar. 15 minutes later at 5:30 a.m. we have GDP for the Canadian dollar, advanced GDP for the US dollar, and employment cost index for the US dollar as well. Later that morning, 7 a.m., we have core PCE price index for the US dollar, which is core personal consumption expenditure. Later during Asia session, we have Bank of Japan policy rate. We have monetary policy statement and Bank of Japan outlook report, all for the Japanese yen. Thursday, May 1st, pre-New York Open, we have high impact news for the US dollar, which is unemployment claims. Later that morning, 6:45 a.m., we have final manufacturing purchasing managers index data being released. Later that evening, during Asia session, we have retail sales for the Australian dollar. Lastly, Friday, May 2nd, 2 a.m. during London session, we have core CPI and CPI for the euro. Following that, pre-New York Open at 5:30 a.m., we have average hourly earnings, non-farm employment change, and unemployment rate off the US dollar. Parliamentary elections for the Australian dollar will be taking place all day long. With that being said, we have tons of news for the week, lots of opportunities that are going to be present, and just ultimately looking forward to a great trading week. Definitely going to be calling quite a few signals this week, so if you already aren't part of my free Telegram channel, go ahead and join. The link is in the video description. Alrighty, so this first pair we'll be looking at is gold here. So we can see that last week our analysis played out pretty accurately. We hit 3,500, then from there, after making that new all-time high, price reversed and started moving lower. So let's go ahead and update our technicals here. Our all-time high is no longer here. It is 3,500, where this area of resistance is. Next, let's adjust our previous week's high and previous week's low. So we can see this zone here, the previous week's high is now up here, as this was the price action based off of last week. Our previous week's low is going to be, you guessed it, down here where this wick is, because that's where the low was last week. We can see currently there is some support trying to be formed here at this area of demand. Let's remove this risk reward tool. as well as this one so we can see more data here. I'm going to zoom into the daily time frame on the right hand side. So last week on Friday we closed with a bearish candle, but it tried to break the previous day's low, then rejected and flipped bullish. So this to me looks like it took liquidity and is trying to do one of two things: either continue the bullish trend that we're currently on or start transitioning lower. So from here, with this bullish candle that formed on the left hand side on this 12-hour time frame, which is what makes up that wick on the daily time frame here on the right hand side, we can see two things. One, price is looking to drive towards 33.55 price range at this area of resistance. If we break above this area, we may target the all-time high at 3,500 once again. From this point, price may either reject and start coming lower, or we continue making new highs. Our next area we can look at for potential take profits. Let's go ahead and zoom out again. So now that price has reached that overall extension point at 35, the next area would be 3,700 price range, which is quite a ways away, but ultimately price is bullish still, and as long as this bullish volume keeps stepping in, price is just going to keep climbing higher and higher and higher. So we have 3,700, 3,750 price range, and if we break above there, we could potentially see 4,000 for gold. Gold may start targeting 4,000 to 4,050 price range. So this is what I'm seeing for this week. Ultimately a bullish move to start the week. We're going to decide if price will break above this area of resistance or reject. To me, based on how the candles are forming, it looks like it's going to drive to break higher and then attempt to break the all-time high. I do believe gold is just going to break above the all-time high and target 3,700 next. So this is the setup I'm seeing. Nice 3.7 risk reward trade if one were to buy at 33.55. Stop loss below the previous week's low at 32.60 with take profit 1 at 34.90, 3,500 price range. Oh, my apologies. Let's go ahead and fix that. All right, so this is what I'm seeing for gold. Took profit 1. If you were to just exit the trade at that first area of resistance where the all-time high is, that's a 1.5 risk reward. If you were to hold for this potential swing trade, your risk reward increases to a 3.7 R trade. Overall, that is what I'm seeing for gold. If price ends up breaking below 3,300, 3,280 price range, there's going to be a lot of bearish momentum, which would ultimately drive the price to 3,200 price range and possibly 3,150. But that is what I'm seeing for the week here. Next, let's go ahead and look at silver. Now, silver is marked up and has these risk reward tools on there from our signals that we called last week. We called 3 trades on silver. So we can see this move here was the start of the analysis of last week. This was the first move. So it was a little choppy, and then once we got up to this point at $33, price got that volume and broke above and ultimately made a new high at 33.70. When we first entered the trade, it was in this area here. We were in profit. We had a stop loss right at this point here, but as you can see, liquidity was taken at this point. Price drove up, then came smashing down, ultimately rejected very quickly, created that wick, and then drove higher. We re-executed at this price range here, 32.70 price range. And I have these all in the free group, free Telegram channel, so you can review the signals and how the setup played out, before and afters, they're on there. We ultimately were targeting 34. We did not reach. We ended up exiting at this point here, I believe 33.40 price range on the pullback. Price ended up trying to drive higher again. We entered once more, and then as we can see, we were in a little bit of profit, but then price ultimately drove lower. Our stop loss was at 32.200. We ended up moving it to 33.400 when I was managing the trade and instructing the Telegram members to reduce their risk. So we didn't lose the full risk that we would have, that we initially set out for the trade. But again, it was still a loss, but ultimately trade management is how you'll survive, and we did everything right. It just happened to not work in our favor this time. But the analysis for this week, let's go ahead and take a look. Weekly time frame on the right hand side. Let's adjust the previous week's high and previous week's low. We're now at this point here, which is going to be the 33.7 price range. Let's remove these risk to reward tools and the technicals from last week. So here we are, previous week's high, previous week's low, right at that wick. Let's zoom into the daily time frame on the right hand side. So on the right hand side, we can see that there was a wick rejection based off of this daily candle close. We have some bullish pressure stepping in. Looks like a break and retest of previous resistance now acting as support. We have bullish candle volume forming on the 4-hour and lower time frames here. We can see that this looks to be just a clean retest, and we may see a move towards 33.40 once again, where this short-term structure broke. So we could see a short-term bullish move potentially like this. But that's not what I'm seeing for the entire week. That's what I'm seeing for the market open. We can break above this price range here and target the previous week's high. I'm still seeing the overall trade idea we had last week to still be valid. So $34 up to $35 still looks to be in the books. If we break above the previous week's high, there's just going to be another clean bullish volume move like last week up to the $34 and $35 price point. If we break it below this previous day's low, Friday's close, the 32.80 price range, then there's a lot more downside towards this range here where we made last week's low and potentially lower. So $32.20 price range and potentially $31 if price were to break below the previous day's low, Friday's close. Still seeing a bullish move on silver, ultimately targeting $34 to $35, and that's the trade setup we're going to take. Same thing as last week. We have lots of confluence. I mean, even on the monthly time frame, massive wick rejection, all these buyers stepping in, lots of liquidity taken from the sell side and people buying the lows. I really do see price trying to climb higher. If we were to get a pullback down into this wick area here, this area of liquidity, it wouldn't be uncommon for silver to do something like that and then drive higher. So another thing we could watch out for would be a move down and then a move driven higher up to 34, 35 price range. So I'm going to set an alert at the 32.50 price range just so that I am alerted that price is in this area. And ultimately, we have our same alerts from last week, $34, $35 set. So we'll be keeping an eye on this and might just be calling the same exact setup from last week. Next, we'll be looking at the NASDAQ 100 here. Now, every single indices was consolidating last week, and once the market opened, they all broke bearish to the downside, or not broke bearish, moved bearish towards the downside, and then took liquidity and got bought up and driven higher. As you can see last week, this was the low point here, so let's adjust this. And this was our high point here. So let's move this to where it is now. To me, the indices are still going to be climbing higher throughout this week. There's a big upside range, very clear range here. We have this area of supply right at the 20,000, 20,400 price point, which just looks like price is going to drive which looks like price is just only going to drive higher too. Looks like a clear range, nothing really stopping it. Looks like market open could be bullish and just keeps pushing higher. If we get a pullback, I could anticipate seeing price retesting this area here, the 18,600, 18,500 price point. We could either respect this area of structure or take liquidity and then climb higher. Both things can happen. As we know, the NASDAQ likes to move to the extreme before going in line with the overall analysis that we see a lot of the times. Similar to last week, broke below the slow point, took liquidity, then drove higher. So same concept. So we can see a setup here. This would be a 3-hour trade. If we come down to 18,600 to 18,500 price range. So I'm going to set alert down here just in the event price does get driven to this low point. We'll be able to take advantage and take some buys. On the right hand side, you can see the weekly time frame, strong bullish candle close. If we were to get a pullback to start the week, it would just be respecting this area of structure, and it just looks clear as day to me. Just looks like we're going to keep climbing higher. Next pair we'll be looking at is the US 30. US 30 looks pretty similar to the NASDAQ, but we're still going to cover the indices. Now, we didn't have as strong of a bullish candle close as the NASDAQ did on the US 30, but we're going to see what. Dude, you're bad, bun. Now, the US 30 didn't have quite as much volume as the NASDAQ did on the weekly candle, but we'll see what happens. But we'll see what's in the cards and see what we may be able to take advantage of and where price is headed. So same thing, price took liquidity, broke below the prior week's structure, formed a bullish candle, bullish volume started stepping in, strong bullish candle closed, and then we can see price started to drive higher. So now what's next? We can see that there's structure right here. We can see that price was also gapping all over the place last week. But the structure right here, 39,300 price range, 39,350 price range, this area here. We can see that we had a bullish candle close on the lower time frames, on the intraday time frames, on the 4-hour and below. There's some intraday structure right here. To me, price is looking like it's going to want to drive higher to start the week, open bullish. We could get a pullback down to this area of structure here, 39,350 price range, and then continue higher. Let me fix this trend line. So here's the setup I'm seeing. Either buys from down this low point here, if price is driven to 39.5 to 39.350, with the stop loss down here at 38.550. The take profit would be the next resistance level above the previous week's high, or above the 2 weeks ago high, right in this resistance area here at the 40,800, 40,800, 41,000 price point. That'd be the first area of take profit I'd be looking at. And if price drives above higher, the 42,000, 41,000, 42,000 price point is what I'd be looking at. From there, there's a clear range, about a 1,000 point range that price could drive higher up to if we break above this area of resistance. So US 30 bullish, may get a pullback to start the week. Looking to open bullish though, may gap higher on the market open. We'll have to see what happens, but we have a few areas of interest and price is still looking to drive higher. Next, the S&P 500. Right hand side we're on the weekly time frame, left hand side will go down to the 12-hour time frame. Now this price action looks closer to how the nasdaq did. We can see lots of bullish volume on the weekly time frame. We closed very strong bullish and broke above the previous week's high. We took liquidity. Every single indices, like I mentioned, did that to start the week last week. Just opened bearish, pushed down, took liquidity. Buyers stepped in at the lower prices and price started moving bullish. All manipulation happens every single day. Just got to know what you're looking for. So let's go ahead and mark this off as our previous week's low. And let's mark off our previous week's high. We may get a pullback to start the week, similar to what I've been saying for the previous two indices. Price may pull back down to this area of structure at the 53.50, 53.35 price range. Could possibly go a little bit below if it wants to take liquidity and then drive higher. The next area that the S&P 500 may be headed to is 5650 up to 5700, and beyond there is 6000 back up to its all-time highs. There's a very clear range if we break above the previous week's high and keep driving up to 5700 price range, and if price is able to sustain and close above 5700, there's a really clear range all the way up to 6000, which may be the case for next month through the month of May. So two setups I'm seeing here. If we look at the lower time frame, head to the 4-hour chart, we can see this potential setup here. If price opens bullish, you can buy on the open, stop loss below this low point here, and you have a 1.7 risk to reward trade at the first area of resistance. If price wants to open bearish and come down and take liquidity and test this area, you can set a stop loss at 52.10 price point with a target at the previous week's high. That's a 1.75 risk reward ratio, and if price breaks above that and hits 5650, 5700 like we're seeing, that's over a 3-hour trade. So overall, S&P 500 looking to climb higher may open the week bullish and keep climbing higher, or if we're unable to sustain the bullish volume, price is going to come back down to the lower areas of structure and keep climbing higher. Basically, price will retest previous resistance / area of support and may drive higher from there. Last but not least, Bitcoin here. Bitcoin had a very big week last week. As you can see, price drove all the way up to 95,000. We're still looking to climb higher up to the 100K point, but overall, this is lining up with the previous week's analysis that we've been saying. We made this yearly low point here, and after that, price has just continually climbed higher. We cleared the 88,000 level of resistance, which was troublesome for some point, but now looking like we have a clear range up to 100K and up to 120K once again. If price is able to sustain and break above 95,000, 100K should be coming up this week, and throughout the month of May we may see 120,000. We may get a pullback this week based on how this candle is closing so far. There's a very clear range, and price may want to come down to retest 90,000 to 88,000, this area, before continuing its bullish trend. So with that being said, we'll set an alert at the 90,000 price point just in case price does come to that area. We'll be able to take advantage of that move, and we'll also set an alert at 100,000 because we want to know if price has broken above the 99K or because we want to know if price is broken above the 99K point and looking to continue climbing higher up to towards 120,000. That's all I have for you guys this week. I hope you enjoyed the analysis. I hope you're excited for the upcoming trading week. I know I am. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, if you have not joined my free Telegram channel, go ahead and do so. Link is in the video description. We're going to be sending a few signals this week, as well as updated analysis and, of course, our weekly Monday motivation. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow me on Instagram, X, TikTok. Profiles are in the video description as well. I do have people that impersonate me, so make sure you are choosing the correct profiles. Those are the only ones that I have, the ones that are in the video description. Lastly, if you guys are looking for more additional education resources, go ahead and check out my friend Strong Money Forex. His channel is also in the video link description. I've been working with him for quite some time over the last few years, and I can honestly say he's very transparent and has a lot to offer as well. I can't say that about everyone, so if you're looking for more, go ahead and check out his channel as well. And don't forget to say BAT sent you. Just say came from BAT's channel, came from Build a Trader. Let him know, show him some love, all right? Hope you all have a good trading week. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week, and stay tuned for more educational content. It's coming. It's in the works. I'm working hard for you guys. All right. Have a nice week. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.
I'm a superhero. My future is bright.